Here we go again.
No, not again.
You've been fooled.
How long have we been doing this?
Once more unto the
Again, until we're both dead.
Hello and welcome to You've Seen Before, movie reviews and connections in mind. Kingsman: The Golden Circle is the sequel to 2015's Kingsman: The Secret Service, and once again stars Taron Egerton, Mark Strong, Colin Firth, as well as a whole host of others. And this time around we get to see the Kingsmen organization essentially destroyed from the very outset by a evil drug cartel leader played by Julianne Moore, and it's up to Taron Egerton's Eggsy and Mark Strong's Merlin to stop them with the help of the Statesmen, the Kingsmen's counterpart in the United States. Now, this video will contain certain spoilers of Kingsman: The Golden Circle, as well as certain other films and TV shows. There will be a full list in the description below. And if you've not seen Kingsman: The Golden Circle yet, and want to wait until you have, stop the video at this point and come back later. With these things in mind, though, let's begin. So Kingsman 2 finds Eggsy living essentially a quiet life. He's settled into his new job as Galahad in the Kingsmen. We get to see him interact with his new girlfriend, almost fiancée at this point, the Princess of Sweden. And we... Of course, things don't always turn out nice for the Kingsmen. It turns out Julianne Moore's Poppy is the leader of a drug cartel, and her evil scheme this time around is to poison her own drug supply and infect hundreds of millions of drug users and with a deadly virus, which only she has the cure to. Now, of course, this leads to her wanting to destroy the Kingsmen because they're a direct threat to her, and when nearly all of the Kingsmen are killed, it is left to only Eggsy and Merlin in order to seek help from the Statesmen, which includes the like of Jeff Bridges' Champ, Channing Tatum as Tequila, and Halle Berry as Ginger Ale. And with their help, we get to see them go out and fight this Julianne Moore's drug operation, and of course save the world. Now, there are several things that sound familiar with this movie, so let's start with the obvious ones and go from there. First, it has to be said that this film has a very interesting parallel with another sequel that came out this year, that mainly Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. What do I mean by that? Well, both of this film and Guardians Volume 2 essentially follow the same formula as the original. They had a lot of the same notes, and they even try to get the same vibe through each of them. The problem with this, of course, is the fact that both Guardians and Kingsman: The Secret Service were very unexpected hits. We had very few expectations going into them, so when they became unexpected hits, we expected their sequels to have that same sort of vibe, but of course our expectations were set too high at that point, and while both of these films are fun, they don't really come off as quite as good as the first one. Interestingly enough, both Kingsman and Guardians of the Galaxy premiered in 2014, and their sequels came out in 2017, so there's an interesting parallel there. Next, Kingsman, much like the Austin Powers franchise, is taking jabs at the James Bond spy movie franchise and its tropes. And it's done this in a number of ways, both overtly and covertly, but one of the more obvious ones that I found in this film is, at a certain point, this film very much kind of resembles the plot of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, the Bond film starring George Lazenby. That film featured another plot of poisoned products, namely in On Her Majesty's Secret Service it was poisoned cosmetics, and in On Her Majesty's Secret Service there also the evil lair is set in a alpine ski resort villa, or inaccessible except for certain certain transportations. In On Her Majesty's service, it was helicopters and certain skis, and in Kingsman, it is a mountain research villa on top of a mountain in presumably it's the Alps or some mountainous area, and they access it through a cable car. Also, if you didn't see the trailers, you may Kingsman: The Golden Circle also has an interesting revelation that Colin Firth's character, the original Galahad, survived his headshot from the previous film, but the way they did that is causes Colin Firth's Galahad to revert to an earlier state, so he has no memory of his exploits past a certain point, presumably. It's an uncertain amount of years, but it's before he and Merlin even met, before he even joined the army, the British Army, and joined Kingsmen. And it's up to Eggsy in order to jog his memory and get him back to his former self. Now, this is a fairly common trope through both movies and TV series. A character who was previously killed off is seen to be alive, but they have no memory. A film example of this would be Furious 7 with the character of Letty, in which she was presumably killed off in the fourth Fast and Furious film, but she is revealed to be alive at the end of Fast 5. And in Furious 6, we find that she is indeed alive, but her memory is erased, and it's up to Dominic Toretto in order to get her memory back. A TV example of this would actually be NCIS, where during their third or fourth season, I can't remember now, but during a season of NCIS, the main character, Gibbs, suffers a tremendous accident when he is on a ship in which a bomb goes off. He's very close to the bomb. He suffers some severe trauma, and he actually loses his memory up through a certain point, and I believe he reverts back to the mid-1990s, right after the Gulf War, the first Gulf War, and he doesn't know anything that happened after a certain point. And it's up to his team in order to jog his memory and get him back up to speed. Now, with all these being said, would I recommend you see this film? I would say it's definitely worth a watch, but you have to set your expectations appropriately. This is definitely not as good as the first film, much like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was not as good as the first Guardians. But, just like Guardians Volume 2, this is still a very fun film. There are great action scenes, great choreography, everything's very brightly lit, and whilst there's not a whole lot of shaky camera or anything, the fight scenes aren't distracting, and it is a very fun movie. You can get sucked into this really fast, and I would say if you can turn your brain off for a little while, this is definitely the great movie to go and see. Some negatives, of course, being this is a very long movie. It's about 2 hours and 21 minutes, and it does feel that long at times, and that does kind of drag it down. Also, there are certain scenes that are really not, I don't know what they were thinking. One of which, this is going to be a spoiler mention, of course, but it's noted in the trailers that Elton John appears in this film, and instead of just being a fairly fun cameo, he actually plays a somewhat significant role, and honestly, I would prefer him to just stay a cameo at this point, because he's funny for the first couple scenes, but he gets very annoying, especially around the end, where it's like, what are you doing there? Just get out of the way. Also, there's a scene that I'm sure that if you haven't already seen it, you may have heard that there's a fairly controversial scene near the middle in which Eggsy has to plant a tracker on a woman, and he goes to a music festival in order to do it. But of course, apparently this certain tracker can only be planted through a mucous membrane, and let's just say he can't go through the nose. So I'll just let you delve on what that is. I didn't expect that to happen, and even though I figured it out fairly early on what their intention was after they said what they were going to do, I'm really surprised that they kind of went that far. So do with that what he will. Apparently it was Matthew Vaughn's intention to shock and make conversation on that, but I don't know. I just didn't feel like that was necessary. But overall, I would say this is definitely a fun film. You should definitely go see this. And if not on a premium Friday or Saturday day, maybe a matinee showing at least. So there you have it. There's my review of Kingsman: The Golden Circle. I appreciate whatever audience I can get, and please look forward to my next TV review of the pilot episode of Star Trek Discovery, coming out this Sunday, September 25th. And also, my next movie review will be for American Made with Tom Cruise, which comes out the September 29th. And so, there you have it. I appreciate whatever audience I get, and just remember, there's nothing new under the sun, and yes, you have seen it before.